So join me in this video as I do a recap of my 11-day journey from the U.S. into Canada and back down to the U.S. I have come up with 20 of the most interesting, best and worst and observations and interesting tidbits that I want to share with you. So stick around and take a look at this video. Okay, I wanted to go ahead and make this my Canada recap video. And it's not just Canada, but actually how I progressed over the time period. I think I left Canada, let's see, the first, so it would have been about 20, about 3 weeks that since I first started camping. So I did a highlight of 20 things that either I've learned or that surprised me or was the hardest thing or the easiest or whatever. So anyway, I wanted to go over this list with you. So it is the 20 things that I came up with after driving all the way from I guess Florida, mainly Tennessee, because I was alone from Tennessee up to Canada, Banff, Jasper, and then back down. I'm in Montana at the moment filming this, just a few days back over the border. So number one is the most panicked that I got and that was when I had to back up the rig in the Bow Valley River campground outside of Canmore. And you'll probably see that I have a Canmore video that you can watch. Not all of that, not my backing up, but me telling part of the story of how that came about. Please watch that video. But basically it was a tight back-end spot with a passenger side back-end, which I had not practiced before. And I was gonna try to do it, but I could not swing the truck because there were big gigantic boulders on the road right in front, so you couldn't get off this narrow road to swing your vehicle to get the trailer to back in, and I'm not an experienced enough driver to be able to do that. So I told the lady, the ranger, I was like, I'm just gonna have to leave. I don't know where I'm gonna go. They didn't have a Walmart or anything like Cracker Barrel up there at that place, so it's like, I don't know where I'm gonna have to camp out for the next couple of days, but I cannot get in here. So blessings to me that there was at least one extra spot that they told me that if I could get myself into that, then I could stay. And with the help of a strange fella, I was able to back up and get into that. But yeah, I was panicked. Number two was the big oopsie. And in training, I was told, make sure that you check and double check and triple check. Once you think you're done with your hooking, unhooking, all that stuff, go back, walk around, do it again, look again. So, and I guess we all know that once we get in a rhythm, we get used to doing things in a certain way, and if something kind of gets off kilter, it kind of throws us. So, I can't remember exactly where I was, but I was doing part of my hookup and unhookup, and then I was going to go, which is what I usually do, is do part of it and then go back into the rig, just do the internet or something and wait another hour or so till it's time that I have to leave. And so that's what I did. I did my hookups and I got ready to go, and I thought everything was kosher. And then I started pulling off and I heard this like, and I was like, oh my God, what have I done? And I was like, I thought I had run over a chalk, but I was like, no, I know I got my chocks out. So when I got out of the truck to go back and look, I realized that I had not taken the leveler, the stacking blocks that I put underneath my jack to raise it up. I had not taken those out and raised my jack up before I pulled off. that could be a major disaster, because you could break your jack leg. And I was very lucky that it slid off those levelers and did not break my jack. So I started doing quadruple look-arounds, but you know, things can happen. So yeah, so that was not a fun thing to happen. So I call that my big oopsie. Number 3, I guess I'm calling it the hardest hitch up. Up to that point, I'm finding that if the site is level and I can back straight in, there's no, you know, gradation, it usually goes a little bit easier, although I still have to keep jumping in and out to see, you know, if I'm close enough, because my camera's so small, I can't really see it very well, and I don't have a backup person to tell me if I need to go over a little bit or whatever. I have to do it myself. So probably the hardest hitch up was when I hooked up at Lake Louise. Lake Louise is a nice campground. It's fairly inexpensive, close to the lakes, but there's about, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 sites that are weird gradation up. It depends on which direction you come in. You're either going up or you're going down. And my truck had gone down. I had pulled the trailer in from the bottom, and so my truck had to come in from the top down. That was probably the hardest, only because of gravity. You're having to, you know, once you put it, even in with your parking brake on, it kind of rolls a little bit because of gravity. So I had to do that back and forth, and then you have to get much higher with your trailer up, and I was scared that even though I had chocks, I was like, oh, it's going to roll downhill. I got to hurry up and get this thing hooked up. And then when I thought I had the ball in the coupler, it just would not go. So that was probably the hardest. Thankfully, again, it was a fairly private campsite. My buddy partner, who was right next door, had already left, so there was nobody just like staring at me to see if I got it right. So that's probably the hardest hitch up so far to date. The 4th thing, observation, it was my best waterfall. I've seen several, some that, you know, I guess they had small names, but I think probably the best was the Athabasca waterfall, and that's about, I don't know, maybe 30 kilometers outside of Jasper. Samwapta was a close second, because that was the first major one that I saw, but Athabasca is just bigger, and more little nooks and crannies to look at. But just the power of those waterfalls, and hearing the water roll down, and just, it's just amazing. It's so peaceful too to hear the water. So I do have a video with those in there, so check that out. My Jasper video, where I do show the Samwapta and the Athabasca waterfalls. So that was probably my favorite. The best lake. I actually wanted to go to Banff just so I could see Lake Louise. I mean, the pictures are just extraordinary, just beautiful photos, and it was beautiful. You know, a little crowded at the front end. People go to take their picture, that scenic, iconic in front picture, and so that was fairly busy. But when I went to Moraine Lake, I think that's the prettier lake. That was the bluer lake. That was the calmer. It's not as big, and maybe not as picturesque with the part up front, but when you're standing on that rock pile, I think I called it something else in the video, but it's called the rock pile. When you're standing up there and you look across that blue lake, oh, it was just gorgeous. So that has to take my prize for the prettiest lake that I saw in Canada. So that's Lake Moraine, which is close by. You take a shuttle bus. They don't allow driving up there. Parking is tight in all those areas. So I do have photos and video of that, so check that out in my Banff video. I guess, let's see, my next category was like best food. And I have to caveat this that I am going cheap, so I knew I wasn't going to go to any expensive restaurants. I was saving my money for other little goodies, and I am newly retired with no job at the moment, so I wanted to eat as cheap as I could. So to me, the best food or value for food was in Banff town at the Cascade Mall. It's a little mall with a IDA pharmacy, and I think it's 4 or 5 food, little, sort of like a food court downstairs. And they take care of every ethnicity. They had Middle Eastern shawarmas, they had Japanese food, they had Chinese food, and then they had Popeyes, American food. So I ate at all 3. I didn't eat at the Chinese one, but I ate at the other 3, and they were great. The Japanese was probably my favorite. I mean, Popeyes was great. I mean, it tasted great, and it was a great value. I think I got a meal deal for like $7, with included a drink and fries and a biscuit and 3 tenders that were huge. So it was a great value and tasted wonderful. I saved it for my lunch the next day when I was hiking. So, but I think, you know, if you want to save money, go there. It's not fancy or anything, but it's good food. Let's see, the number 7, underwhelming food. Again, I did not have like probably, you know, all the great fancy restaurants in the typical, like, I don't know what's typical Canadian other than poutine and beaver tails. So poutine, if you don't know, is the French fries that's covered with the gravy and cheese curds. I didn't know how I would like that because I don't really like soggy food, but actually it was better than I thought, so I would do it again. So yay for poutine. The beaver tail, I didn't like it as much as I thought it would. Now again, I bought it when it was piping hot, and then I took it home and didn't eat it really until that night and the next day. And so, you know, it wasn't quite as good as it probably would be if I got it piping hot out of the restaurant. But if you don't know beaver tail, it's shaped like a beaver tail, but it's basically like fry bread or a funnel. Kind of tastes like a funnel. And then they can put all kinds of stuff on it. It could be, you know, chocolate sauce or, you know, jams or whatever. And so I had like a chocolate brownie type thing. So, I mean, it was okay, but it was a little underwhelming for me. The number 8 is my worst meal. And I hate to say that the worst meal was at a little grill in Lake Louise. They don't have that many places to eat there, and parking was bad, so I was in the little mall area, and I was like, well, I'll just stop here at the grill because I'm starving. And went upstairs to the little restaurant and ordered a burger and fries. The fries were decent. The burger was, you know, commercialized patty thingy that I don't know. It just was not very good at all. And so I felt bad that I ended up paying like 25 Canadian for hamburger and fries, and all I really ate was the fries. But, you know, I guess the good thing is that 25 Canadian is not, what 18 or something USD. So, but still, I kind of wasted my money on that. I think there's a lot of places I probably would have eaten, not just there, it was there too, if I could have found it. One, my GPS wasn't, you know, getting great signal, and then parking. It's harder for me to park with the truck because I'm not a great parker or backer upper and that kind of thing. So that was the best I could do, and I was starving. Number 9, the nicest moment probably was when I was just arrived in Jasper. I was trying to unhook, and somebody tapped me on the shoulder. Kind of scared me, and I looked up, and it was one of my neighbors across the street, and she's like, as soon as you get done, I want you to come over here and tell us why you bought this Canadian trailer. And so I did go over. You know, she invited me for drinks and to eat or whatever, but we sat and chatted for the longest, and I told them why I bought my Escape, which is manufactured in Canada. They loved it. You'll see that I have a tour video where we tour my rig, and then we tour theirs as a comparison. So they say they would like it. It's just a little bit expensive for them, but you know, so far it's been a good trailer. So I hung out with them for 2 nights and had wonderful conversation. So my 4 Canadian friends. Number 10, I guess best sightseeing at that point. And I didn't really buy a lot of tickets to anything sightseeing. I was just going to try and wing it. But I did buy a ticket to the Sunshine Village gondola that goes up to the top of this mountain. And then you can hike around the mountain or go down to some rivers once you get up at the top. But you take the gondola part of the way, and then you have to take a chairlift the rest of the way. Well, just for the gondola and the chairlift, it was worth the $50 that I paid to go see it. And it was so pretty and scenic. And I did not do all the trails because there was some elevation. And but I did, one little trail. But so that was probably the nicest thing that I bought sightseeing wise that I enjoyed. And there again is a video for that. Number 11, best campground to that date in Canada was the Banff campground. It is a national park or campground, but it had full hookups. And it was parallel parking, which was great. So you just kind of pull off the side of the road. You've got water, sewer, everything was there. And the thing I loved about it too is that they had the city bus would come to the campground and would take you down to the city for free. So you get to ride the bus for free down to the city. You do have to pay your way back up, but it was only $1 Canadian. I mean, and gosh, to not have to try and find parking and walking after you find parking, that was worth every little Canadian dollar or more. So I did enjoy that campground. Wish I could have stayed longer, but it's just like the U.S. National Parks. You have to book like a year ahead of time to get more than 1 or 2 days in a row. So I would definitely go back there. 12, the best mountain town, of course, has to be Banff. Jasper's recovering from the fires not that long ago. And I think even if it wasn't recovered, it's just not as big of a, downtown area with stuff like Banff. Banff has more shopping and stuff to do and just more organized and everything, I think. I don't know, it's just a bigger town, a bigger mountain town. And I really enjoyed it. I went downtown twice, rode the bus down, and walked around and went to a few shops. It was kind of a busy weekend because it was the Labor Day, and I think it was the last weekend before schools, but it wasn't too bad. So I would probably say come, maybe after Labor Day, and it may be even less crowds, but it wasn't bad at all. Number 13 is the best RV parking. And when I say that, I mean, where can you go where if I'm still attached to my rig, that I can just park it somewhere without, I don't know if to find space. That's always difficult. It's easier for the vans to find space, but if you're pulling a trailer or fifth wheel, it's harder, or class A. But probably the best was at the Icefields, Columbia Icefields Parkway, and that's like almost halfway between Banff and Jasper. And I do have a video with that where you see the glacier, and they have a discovery center that you can walk to, or you can take the little bus, the big bus, and go out to the glacier and walk. But they have great RV parking and loads of it, easy to get in and out of. And I actually stopped there twice, on the way to Jasper and on the way back. So good for them. But a lot of the Canadian places they try to have RV parking, which is really nice, and I applaud them for doing that. 14, the best hike is one I didn't even get to do all of it because I had done a couple hikes earlier in the day and I was really tired, but it's the one at the Moraine Lake. And it just goes around the lake shore. And the reason that was better to me than the Lake Louise lake shore was because it gave you the opportunity to get close to the water. It had, the dead trees and some boulders, and you had lots of space between the water and the trail, and you can come off the trail and walk beside the water. That was so nice and peaceful. And the parts that I did go on, I stopped and sat and, just watch folks paddle on the water. So that was my favorite offshore hike. 15, my worst pre-preparation for the trip was not having sufficient phone coverage for internet. I have T-Mobile, and I bought an international plan, but it was very small. It was only 15 gigabytes, and I used those up in like 3 or 4 days. So then I was like stuck with like no high-speed internet. I could make phone calls and receive phone calls, but that was about it. I did have Starlink, and Starlink I bought the mini, but I didn't buy the unlimited plan, so I only had 50 gigabytes. And so far I did okay with that. I used up 30 something, but I would have, you know, I mean, and it's not that expensive if you go over. You can just pay, I think it's $1 per gigabyte after that. But I probably should have prepped a little bit more and been more prepared for that to know how much I was going to use. And I did not, you know, I may do, but next time I will. I tried to buy one of those like Airflow, I can't think of the name of the Airflow or whatever, $40 per what is it, like unlimited, I guess, for a month. But I could not get an eSIM because my phone was too old. It did not support an eSIM, so that's how I kind of got messed up. So anyway, next time. 16, I'm calling this time suckage. And that was probably having to sanitize my tanks in Banff. When you get an RV, you're supposed to sanitize all your tanks with bleach, you know, fill it up, flush it around, let it sit for a day, and then do it again. Not with bleach again, but rinse and rinse. Well, I got my rig and we were moving, so I didn't have time to do that. And I was like, oh, it's new, it won't do anything. But it actually did. The first time we used two of the tanks, it did smell, and we had to flush. And I had never used my freshwater tank because I've been getting city water. Well, I had to fill up and use fresh water, and it was smelling. And so I had to take time in Banff to do a sanitizing. So I had to go find bleach, which love that Dollarama. They have everything, including bleach. And it was in the Cascade Mall, so I didn't have to go too far. And then, you know, let it sit and then flush it. And I didn't flush it all the way, and I didn't put it much because, you know, I can't let it go on the ground because it's got bleach, so I have to do it through the sanitation system, and that was taking a little bit of time. So that took me a good little, almost 2 hours to do the sanitizing, but it does smell much better after that. So if I'd done this before, I wouldn't have had to backtrack. Let's see, 17 is the best Canadian shopping discoveries. And I mentioned one of them earlier. It's the Dollarama. I love that little place. It's a cross between a Dollar General store and a Dollar Tree, but a lot more organized and cleaner. Loved it. And the other was Canada Tire, which was an interesting store. I thought it was going to be a tire store, but it was something like a Home Depot with a Bed Bath and Beyond. I don't know. They had a little of everything. It wasn't gigantic like the Home Depots, but it had a little of everything, including some tires out there somewhere. 18 is the most interesting observation was that, of course, Canada gas prices are higher, which is interesting because they produce a lot of oil, but their gas prices are much higher than ours. I mean, you know, even higher than California. But I got better gas mileage with their gas. So I don't know if they're adding something different or not adding something, but I was going up and down those mountain passes with high elevation, and my tank seemed to hold on to gas a lot better. Not sure what it was, but even though I paid the high prices, probably if I calculated miles per gallon, I probably would have done better. You know, I was getting cheaper gas in the States just going flat, and I was like going through gas quickly. It could be a caveat. It could be too that I was going faster in the States because you could go 80 miles an hour if one. I wasn't going 80, but you could go 80 miles an hour. But you know, if you're doing the mountain passes, I think the speed limit was like 60 was like the highest. So anyway, better gas for me during that time period. 19 was personal growth discovery. And I think what I discovered is that I was a better driver than I thought. The rig pulls wonderfully well. It trails great, which means that where the truck goes, it goes. It doesn't, I mean, it does, I won't say sharp turns, but it does pretty good radius of turns, so I could do a U-E in some places that I didn't think I could. And I was able to drive in small spaces, tight corners on the mountains, and then I was driving in these towns. I was in Jasper, I was in Banff, Canmore, and I was driving downtown with this trailer. And especially in Banff, where you've got tourists crossing, and you know, I was like, oh my God, am I going to be able to like turn corners? But I did, and so I was proud of myself for being able to do that. So the growth in 3 weeks was tremendous, and the confidence for driving that thing. Maybe one day I'll get there with the backing up, but at least going forward I can do it. So number 20, I guess, is just my overall impression of my time in Canada. Alberta was wonderful. It's the first time in Alberta. I'd done British Columbia before. But Canada's very organized, super clean. All the campsites, even in the state, or they call them provincial parks, state parks, and the national parks, federal parks, were just clean. The showers and the toilets were super clean. They had, you know, even the pit latrines that they have outside when you're driving on the highways that you can pull off and go to the latrines, they were clean. And they had hand sanitizer in there, you know, when of course they couldn't have the water. So that was great. So I just enjoyed my time there. It was very organized, it was very clean, and people were very, very friendly and helpful. So I definitely recommend those parks, and then I hope to go back again one day and hit some more. Hoping maybe next year I can do Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. So anyway, that's it for my wrap up of Canada. I'm a few days into Montana, and I'll have at the end, when I get to Nevada, I'll do a wrap up of my expenses and any other observations that I had along the way. So thanks again. See you soon.